I'm Scott Bertrand. I'm the inventor of the Allcore 360, but today we're going to talk about proprioception, but I want you to look at it a little differently than you normally look at it. Proprioception is a survival mechanism. It's a survival tool that we use every day. So I want you to look at it as if you were a caveman in that cave trying to survive. He doesn't have everything that we have today to help us. So when I go over these things in detail, look at it as a caveman trying to survive. So proprioception, actually by definition, it's an awareness of your body position in space, in kind of a three-dimensional space. But remember this, 90% of the time, we are only in three positions, and that's really important. It's going to make more sense at the end. We're in three positions. We sit, we stand, we lay down, and there's a minor transition between the three. Basically, we only have three positions that we live in. Pay attention to that because it's the changing of positions that makes so much importance with proprioception. So how do we do that? There are all kinds of receptor cells in our body that tell our body where it is in space. And we're going to go over those. And the reason we're going over those is what I'm trying to explain is there's an enormous amount of information that's going into the spinal cord if these are stimulated in the way that we're going to stimulate them later. So I want you to understand what they actually do. So here, we're going to start this. And proprioception is the stimulation in the skin itself. So in the skin, we have several organs, and we're going to discuss them. But right here in the dermal papillae, we have what's called a Meissner's corpuscle. So we're just going to call that a Meissner's corpuscle. What a Meissner's corpuscle does, Meissner's corpuscle, what it does is really for fine discriminative touch. So that's the way you can tell that, for instance, and again, back to our caveman, what do we do with fine discriminative touch? That tells us that we have a spider crawling on our leg, okay? We need to know that. So these sit right here in the skin. It's interesting to note that a Meissner's corpuscle has a low threshold, which means it's really easy to set off, which means when that little bug is crawling on you, you feel that. But it's also got a quick adaptation, and that's really important. If you put that little bug right there and it doesn't move, it adapts immediately and you don't even know it's there anymore. You put a ring on your finger, you fire up that Meissner corpuscle, you know the ring is cold, it's hot, it's tight, it's wood, it's metal. 5 seconds later, you don't know any of that. You can go back and reclaim it. What I'm saying is they detect that information, but then they adapt to it real quickly. That's really important. Meissner's corpuscles. Down here, we have another one. It's called Merkel's discs. Okay, Merkel's discs, it's also for discriminative touch. But we use this one for 2-point discrimination. And by 2 points, I mean, take your 2 fingers, put it on the back of your hand. You know those are 2 points of discrimination. The closer you get together, it determines how sensitive that is. So Merkel's discs are designed for that. And again, this is going to be really important. What is this? This is driving up a ton of information up the spinal cord. And they sit in the skin. Now what I did here, picture this as a surface of the skin, and I've elongated this much. Let's just say right here, okay, that's a hypodermic needle. So just to kind of show the perspective, this is a very small piece of skin, okay? The next thing we're going to see in here, Pacinian corpuscles. Again, these are nerves that sense changes in the it's a mechanoreceptor. If you stretch it or put pressure on it, it changes and sends a receptor signal, a signal. So the Pacinian corpuscles, primarily, they're really for pressure. Some vibration, but mostly pressure. This is really critical. I want us to pay real close attention to that. Pressure. When I put my arm up like this, there's pressure on the disc, on that corpuscle, pushing down on my arm. What does that tell my body, my brain? That gravity is that way. Huge important. I know where this arm is in space, but because of the pressure on top of my shoulder, I know where it is in position of gravity. That's huge. So pressure is a really important part of this. Here's something really interesting about our skin. And what we do to our bodies, when you think about this, kind of crazy. So right here, almost in every square centimeter or more or less of our skin, we have hair. Our body is covered in hair. These are called, the nerves that attach to the hair are called peritracheal nerves. And think of what they're for. Why do we have those nerves in our hair? They're the very first thing that bug touches before it gets to our skin. This is an awareness of wind and all kinds of very, very subtle things. What do we do nowadays? We just shave that off. We just take out all that proprioception, just pull it right out. That's insane. You should keep your hair. Okay, so the paratracheal nerves. Then we have free nerve endings, and this is pretty important. Free nerve endings, that is a picture of the skin over there. Free nerve endings are there, but they're also in the joint capsules. And this is really important because free nerve endings, they're responsible for also pressure, but it's torque. That's so important. And this is what damages the joint. It's the twisting of the joint that's going to pay attention to. Those are the free nerve endings. So again, these are all things that are in the surface of the skin that are constantly going into the spinal cord, into the brain. So just pay attention to what's going on here. These bottom two, these are the ones that most of the world look at for proprioception. I add them all. If you want to know where your body is in space, you need all that stuff. But the world kind of looks at these two as the main ones, and they're very important. So we've got the Golgi tendon organ, GTO, and we have the muscle spindle. And these are hugely important for body position in space. Not as important as where it is in relation to gravity, but where its position is in space. So the muscle tendon, or the muscle spindle and the Golgi tendon organ, I'm trying to draw this right here. Hopefully you can see what's going on here. So what this is the arm, the humerus of the arm, the radius of the arm, the bicep, and the tricep. Okay, that's kind of what we're going to go over here in the Golgi tendon organ, the muscle spindles. So in the muscle, which is this right here, in the muscle belly, we've got two types of fibers. We've got extrafusal and we've got intrafusal. We have hundreds and hundreds of muscles in our body, and each one of those muscles have hundreds and hundreds of fibers. So we're just talking about a few muscle fibers here to picture them on a wide range of what our body really has. The extrafusal fibers, when you contract your muscle, when you see that muscle, what you're really seeing is these muscles shortening and bulging, and that's what the extrafusal fibers are. The intrafusal fibers really don't have a lot of contractibility in them, although they have a small amount. What they're designed to do is let the body and brain know what the length of this muscle is at all times. What is the length of this muscle at all times? It tells the length of the muscles, the changing of the length of the muscles, and the rapid speed of which those muscles change length. All those things are very important. So, and this is so very, very important to joint position. So let's kind of explain something. If you look at the arm, and it's bent at this angle right now, that's kind of how the angle of the arm is. The brain knows, based upon the length of the bicep and where it attaches, that this bone is in that relationship to this bone because it knows this length of the bicep and this length of the tricep. When it knows those two things, it knows that your arm is bent like that. That's what that's designed to do. It doesn't say where in the world it is, but it says it's bent just like that. So it does that through the intrafusal fibers. So picture what's going on. This is what's so important. Here we are over here. That's that same bicep muscle. And what I've done is kind of show how the nerves actually work in there. So picture this nerve in the bicep. Let's go back to survival. Everything in the body is about survival. You don't have anything in your body that has any other reason other than to help your body survive. And what does that mean? Stop the body from being damaged. Survival means quit hurting it, stop it from being hurt. So how does the body protect the bicep muscle? Brilliantly, that's how it does it. It has a sensor that sits in the bicep muscle that obviously determines the length. That's this right here. That's that intrafusal fiber. It knows the length. So let's just say you're holding this bag and your body knows the length of this fiber. I drop a rock in this bag. This bag drops like that a couple inches. This stretches. And boom, it sends a signal immediately back up to the posterior horn of the spinal cord, back out, without you thinking about it, and causes that muscle to contract so this doesn't fall out of your hand. If you had to think about it, you couldn't think about it fast enough. So that's a nerve in a intrafusal fiber, and there are millions of them that go into the spine. Here's something I want you to pay attention to. This is so very critical, I believe. In my mind, the nerve transmission, the speed of a nerve transmitting to the brain, is a hierarchy of survival. The faster that nerve transmits its information to the brain, the more important that information is to the brain. The body has chosen these nerves to be the fastest nerves in the body. So in the body, we have three types of nerves. We have one alpha, one beta, and one delta. In one alpha, it's the fastest. And the difference is between these three, it's the myelin sheath. This one is the most heavily coded myelin sheath. This is moderately coded. And sometimes this is just called non-coded or unmyelinated. This is a pretty slow-moving nerve. These move at 120 meters a second. 120 meters a second. You don't have 1 meter in your body that has to move. So picture how fast these are going into the brain. That's because of how important they are to survival. So what type of nerve is this one? Not only is 1A the fastest, 1A alpha is the fastest, then 1A beta, then 1A delta. So the 1A alpha nerve, this one right here, that tells me that that's critical for survival. That's critical for maintaining a lack of damage. That's the fastest nerve in the body. It transmits the information to the brain the fastest. To me, that means it's the most important. This is a reflex loop. If you had to use your brain to think about that, you couldn't do that fast enough. So the goal of a muscle spindle is to protect the muscle. Now, the other one is, okay, so that's one of the nerves that are going into the spinal cord. What happens when you have to contract this muscle? What if this muscle is really tight? The body knows better. This also has a nerve conduction that comes back around to the back of the tricep and says, hey, if we're contracting this muscle, we better relax this one or something's going to break. This is called reciprocal inhibition. And again, hang with me. All these things are going to make so much sense to you guys that are using the all-cord, and it will make a huge bit of sense when I break it up over here. So here's that whole massive amount of information going in and out of the spine. What muscles to contract, what muscles to relax, so your body can move. And your brain knows the length of every muscle and every joint. That's the muscle spindles. There's one more in here that's really important. It's called the Golgi tendon organ. And I'm going to tell you a lot about this one because I tore mine. The Golgi tendon organ, and I tore this one right here. The Golgi tendon organ is designed that when you say, here's your bag of rocks, you put this rock in, okay, you can handle it. You put this rock in, you can handle it. You put this rock, this rock, this rock. All of a sudden, you've got too many rocks in this, and if this muscle is trying to pull, muscles are strong, the tendon doesn't stretch. It's attached to the bone right here. If you keep putting rocks in there, this is going to rip right off the bone. That's called an avulsion. That tears the tendon right off the bone. What the Golgi tendon organ does is it senses that tension, and before it can tear, it's going to send a signal back to the brain that says, shut that off, stop it. And that's what causes you to drop it. You drop it. If you don't drop it, this tears. I tore my bicep tendon out of here because I caught a rock that fell off the side of the hill. It snapped it. It couldn't happen quick enough. But why is it there? That Golgi tendon organ there is there only to protect that muscle. Survival, right? The body is set up for survival. So there's this enormous amount of information that's going into the spinal cord, going up to the brain, coming down from the brain to make sure the body knows what it needs to do and that it against all its environmental stresses or pressures. It's there to survive. That's the whole reason it's there is to survive. Okay, so what I've done here is I've listed all those sensors, the mechanoreceptors and the proprioceptors. And so, again, to explain what's really going on, Meissner's corpuscles, they're sending information into the spine. Merkel's discs are turning around, they're sending their information into the spine. Every second, if not quicker. Pacinian corpuscles, all their information into the spine. Paratracheal nerves, you shouldn't shave your hair. All those go into the spine. Splenic corpuscles, all going into the spine. Golgi tendon organs and muscle spindles. Basically what we're doing is all this is going into the spine all at the same time, right into the posterior horn, and then it goes up to the brain. So just think of the massive amount of nerves that are entering the spinal cord that's telling the body where it is in space and how important that is because we're using the 1A alpha nerves to do so. That's kind of the bulk of what proprioception is and how it uses these nerve endings to really determine its position in space. Those of you that are all core providers, I think this is going to be really important and you'll find out why we've gone through all this. And so what I'm going to do is contrast the all core with what currently is done, and I'm going to explain why it's so very different. Let's compare the all core to a plank, and then let's use what we know about the body here and determine what kind of sensors are being fired when we're in a plank. Let's say our body's face down in the standing plank pose. There's our head, the arm, feet. Okay, so here we are in the plank pose, more or less. We have to contract our core? Yes, we do. What's changing in this? The muscle length, is that changing? No, there's tension on the Golgi tendon. That changes a little bit while you're there, but very little. The pressure in gravity coming down, no change. So here's what we're doing with a plank. We are stimulating the muscles of the core. We are. But what we're doing, we're stimulating in the way that I like to call volitionally. We chose to do that. This is something we wanted to do, so we did that. So our brain looks at that as something we want to do. It's going to work really hard to do that. The more we do that, the better we're going to get at it. But it doesn't do any changing. So what, does it change the Meissner's corpuscle? Nope. Where was this? Nope. Pacinian? Nope. 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 Does it change any of those things? No. Is it a muscular stress? Sure. Does our body respond to muscular stress? Yes, it does. Does a plank work for the muscles? Sure it does. Does it do anything to drive all that to the brain and make a neuroplasticity difference? Not at all. Not a chance. Planks are fine. Look at your bench press. Here you are laying on the bench, benching. Okay, there's your weights. What's the deal here? The weight's coming straight down like that. Nothing changes here. None of those signals are being changed. This is just the same weight going up and down. Are we doing anything over here? No, we're not. Are we working the muscle out? Absolutely. Does a muscle have survival value? Absolutely. But again, we want to. Pay attention to that. We want to. The brain wants to. We want to hit a golf ball. We want to bench press. We want to do all those things. Now, here's the difference. This is all done on a conscious level. This, my friends, is done on a subconscious level. Our brains, those puny little minds we have, aren't quick enough to make this stuff work. We can do this all day, and we get good at it. We couldn't have a chance if we had to deal with all that. How do we stimulate all that? Not that way. That absolutely does not work and never will work. Let's come over here. It's the all core that works, and it works perfectly at this. This is looking down at your body from the top in the all core. You may get a chance to look at that in a minute. We've got a pad here. That's on our side. We've got a pad on our back. We've got a pad on the other side. And then we have a belt that goes around the front. Okay? Picture you're lying on the machine and you're face up. Okay, here's your head. Here's your nose. Don't give me a hard time. We're looking down at the body. You're face up. What's going on when it sits in this position? Let's look at all our sensors over here. You're lying on this pad. Your body knows you're lying on that pad because of those sensors. What the machine, okay, but if you lay on that pad for very long, your body would adapt to that, and you just be laying there like you're doing bench press. Would it be doing any stimulation? No, it wouldn't. It would notice where it is, and just like the ring you had on your hand, it'll forget. We don't allow that with the all core. You've got those sensors in your entire body, all the way around your waistline that we've got compressed into the device. What I did was take a tiny little piece of skin ran it up here, and showed you what all those nerve endings are and where they're at. So picture those in every little place all the way around on the skin that are constantly letting the body know where it is its space. In this position, right there, is the predominant stress. Right here, not as much. The body knows that. Here's what the all-core does. It starts to rotate. It can't turn off these sensors because in one more second, this starts to change. Now it's this way, and then it's this way, and then pretty soon it's all that way. So these sensors have to change every second. And here we go. This is what makes it so very important. This does it on a subconscious level. We don't think about it. In fact, if we thought about it, we'd mess this up. This happens on a subconscious level because it's so important to survival. The brain turns on. When we're over here, heck, you can fall asleep doing a bench press. You could literally fall asleep doing a bench press. And your brain could just basically turn off. Over here, your brain is wondering, where the heck am I? Where the heck am I? Where the heck am I? Where's my arm? Where's my shoulder? Where's my foot? Where's my leg? It's doing that constantly. What kind of pressure's here? What kind of pressure's there? As we spin, what we're doing is we're causing that stress to change. Where's gravity? Here. Where's gravity? There. Where's gravity? There. The body has to look at that constantly. For 10 minutes, it's in hyperactive sensitivity mode because it's trying to survive. It doesn't know what's going on. It's never done this before. It's literally freaking out. That puts your body on hyperactive mode. That puts your neuroplasticity on hyperactive mode. Your body's trying to learn, what is this stress and how do I survive this stress? You don't forget that. You're awake. Your brain is awake. And that's the difference between the stimulation of a plank, which you can sleep in a plank, and the subconscious stimulation of all those nerve endings that makes the all-core that much more different. When a post-stroke patient gets on here, what we're doing is we're firing up so much information up the spinal cord, down the spinal cord, to make all this aware of where we are. Remember, let's look at this for a minute. Here's your abdominal muscles. When you're face up, they got to contract, remember? We got all this information going back and forth, making it contract. How long is it? Where am I? Oh, we also like this. These have to relax. The one that's directly perpendicular across the circle, if you will, has to relax. So it's contraction, relaxing, contraction, relaxing, contraction, relaxing. All the way around, while we're also saying, how hard is it? Pressure. Is it just a little bit? Is the belt too much? Is the pressure too much? All those things are going on all the time. And that will make that post-stroke person, that traumatic brain injury person, that spinal cord injury person, and anybody trying to improve, jump into the next level because the body reacts to trying to survive. It really doesn't care if we can do a plank. It does not care. It really cares if we can survive. That's the difference. To the all-core providers, you already know this, but the rest of the people need to understand that we are dramatically different. And for that reason, you should give us a shot.